Hello, good morning. I am Joel Carneiro, AI architect at Armis, and with me is Nuno Marques, who leads our identity and security department. Over the last years, my role has been to help organizations move from AI experiments to real production systems. And Nuno's role has been to make sure those systems, and other systems, of course, are safe, compliant, and resilient. But what about today? Today is not another AI is the future talk. No. Everyone in this room already knows that AI is strategic. The question is, how do you keep up with the AI that is already in the building, inside your workflows, while your governance model still treats it as a future project? By the end of this session, the goal is that you can see a clear and concrete path from where you are right now to what we call trusted acceleration, shipping and using AI features at the speed your business demands, with evidence-based trust that your security and governance are keeping up. And let's start with reality. Please raise your hand if someone on your team used an AI tool in the last week. Show me your hand, please. Okay, I would say the majority of the room right now. And now, please raise your hand again if, and only if, for each of those uses, you can answer these simple questions. Which tool, what data went in, where did the output go, and what controls were applied? Raise your hand, please. Okay, one person, two persons. Okay. So that drop in hands, ladies and gentlemen, is the gap we are here today to address. In most organizations, AI usage is now mainstream, but a large portion of that usage is still done through personal or unmanaged tools, what we call shadow AI. The AI adoption in enterprises did not start with a board-approved strategy document. No, it started with convenience, okay? A developer installed GitHub Copilot or a similar tool. A finance analyst asked the conversational agent to summarize a given contract. No project plan here, no steering committee, just individuals trying to solve their real problems. The real story is not that AI is powerful. The real story is that AI is already inside your workflows, while most governance models still assume that AI is a pilot, AI is an experiment, or something for the year 2027. And this misalignment in timing is what creates risk. Governance is still in PowerPoint, AI is already in production. And let's make that gap more explicit. Teams are using AI every day. Agents and AI-powered workflows are being connected into CRMs, ticketing systems, data platforms, basically. And mostly, they are driven by local innovation budgets and not central programs. Shadow AI is exploding. The majority of the AI usage in many enterprises is still, it still happens through personal and unmanaged tools or apps, completely outside of the IT visibility. Leadership, security, and compliance are trying to keep up, but they are against the curve. AI capabilities like AI models, AI tools, agent frameworks evolve in days, while the governance processes move in quarters or slower. So the gap is not closing by itself, it is widening. Most organizations in this room have some form of responsible AI policy. A PDF, a slide deck, maybe a console. But policy without instrumentation is just a wish. In practice, the following things keep showing up. Data flows into AI systems before it is properly classified. Security teams lack telemetry on what agents are actually doing. Security teams lack the telemetry, and then the decision makers underestimate how fast autonomy changes the risk. The AI supply chain complexity is rising day by day, and compliance is facing a wave of overlapping regulations, especially in Europe. We have regulators moving, AI deployments are moving even faster, but internal controls are not keeping up with either. Why is this so hard? This isn't hard because someone is failing. No. This is hard because we have 4 different groups operating in 4 different clocks. Builders optimize for delivery. The outcome, AI adoption accelerates and is faster than governance can react. Security optimizes for risk. They want visibility, control, they want logging, they want a safe deployment and development. Compliance optimizes for auditability. But if AI decisions, reasoning traces, and AI tools are not logged in a structured way or not logged at all, there's nothing concrete to audit. And leadership optimizes for outcomes, productivity, cost, speed, and competitive advantage. And the pressure to move faster is very, very, very real. These groups are all rational, but they operate in different time scales. AI moves in days, governance moves in quarters. And that is the heart of the problem. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Even in organizations where the leadership has officially banned certain AI tools, the AI usage does not go to zero. No, it goes underground. Employees will still use AI in personal accounts, personal devices, if they feel that the official channels are too slow or too restrictive. And you end up with the worst possible state, high usage with low visibility. This brings us to the core structural problem. If AI governance lives only in security, it becomes a blocker. If it lives only in engineering, it becomes wishful thinking. If it lives only in legal or compliance, it turns into paperwork. If it lives only in leadership, it becomes slogans, AI first, responsible innovation, and others. And no single team owns AI, right? And because no single team owns AI, no single team can own AI governance. They all need to work together to the same goal. What does good look like in this new reality? The answer from our work with clients is what we call trusted acceleration. And trusted acceleration means that you can ship and use AI features weekly or daily, and at the same time be able to answer with evidence 3 simple questions. What models and agents are running where? Which data do they touch and how does it flow? And who approved which capabilities, under which policies, and when? In other words, trust is not a feeling, trust is evidence on demand. And the vision here is a world where security and governance are not brakes, but instead they are built-in rails that let your AI teams move faster and with confidence. And in the next minutes, Nuno will showcase how you can do this step by step. Nuno, the remote control is yours and the stage as well.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, why agents change everything? The real change is not when agents write texts, it's when they start taking actions. AI agents can call tools, APIs, move data, take actions across a multitude of systems inside your organization. And that completely changes the threat model in a few important ways. Let's take a ride for a couple of them. So a malicious instruction buried on a PDF, on an email, on a website, can quietly change what the agent thinks he needs to do. And suddenly, it's doing the wrong thing very efficiently. Every tool the agent can call, being, again, a payment API, a ticketing system, a CRM, an administration console, is now a surface attackers can use. Autonomy turns small errors into really fast repeated failures. If you have a human, he can make a mistake once, learn from it, hopefully. If an agent is misaligned, then it will repeat that same mistake hundreds of times per minute. And identity becomes a machine extended item because the agent has now the inherited privileges of its user or service account, and now you have actually inside your organization a digital employee. The supply chain expands from simple models, LLMs that respond to prompts, to tools, to policies, and this is where the new OWASP Top 10 Agentic for agentic applications brings direction for the organizations to navigate through these challenges. So, given these changes, given this shift, the worst thing that can be done is to treat AI agents just like any other project for a single team to own. What we've been doing with customers at Armis is what we call agentic adoption, security, and governance. Think of it as of a shared operating model where we bring everyone to the same table. The builders, the engineering, security, compliance, leadership, and we share the same loop, the same data, the same cadence. And the goal is to turn what today feels like uncertainty and friction, because we all heard, I don't even know what this agent is doing, and here comes security again slowing us down, and turn this into a practice, into a foundation for trust. In practice, this means three things: visibility, control, and accountability. So, if you want to achieve this, you need to have a playbook. First thing, and where we start, is not about buying tools and whatnot. It's, let's see what do you already have, right? This means building an inventory of AI apps, agents, co-pilots, being it sanctioned, or the ones that you don't know are there, so the shadow AI. And to collect this, you can use simple surveys, of course, but you would rely on network telemetry, identity logs. So if you don't do this, everything that comes next is just guesswork. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you have. Once you know what you have, you start tiering by risk, because an agent that reads from an FAQ from HR would probably not have the same risk of an agent that you configured to go and change your firewall rules, right? So now you have tiers. If you have tiers, you can define guardrails. You can define controls for those tiers. And you should define very specific controls so that your engineering and security teams know what they need to implement and they can test it. So now you have the controls. The next step, you verify. You continuously test. You look for abnormal behaviors. You sandbox tools. You look for identity abuse. And you do red teaming. You inject all those techniques that you can do to make an agent misbehave. When you run this exercise, you're going to learn from it. And when you learn from it, from that output, you can then restrict capabilities. You can input limits to the tools. You can apply a least privilege to the identities, and so on. Actually, in parallel, you should also make sure that you include traceability. You need at every point of the flow to make sure that you are logging every tool action, you know, a complete telemetry of what is going on. Because this is what's going to allow you to understand if the agent misbehaved, where was the problem. You need to be able to reconstruct the actions that were taken because you need to know what he's doing, but also because if auditing comes later and they ask you their favorite question now, don't tell me, show me, you need to be able to give them this. If you don't have this traceability, you're not in control. Of course, not every workflow needs to be fully automated from the beginning. You need to see where the critical actions are, and you can define human-in-the-moment loops, because what we want to do here is not to have agents that remove humans completely from the flow, but you need to have humans where it makes sense, where the critical decision really counts. So in the end, what you want to do is to define a governance for this whole AI supply chain that looks after models, prompts, tools, and data. Now, there's a second part to this playbook. And the second part is, how do you shape this in real life? How do you run this week over week over week to make delivery of these AI initiatives faster? So first, you put everything that we were talking about in the playbook into the pipeline. This means when the team ships an AI feature or a new AI agent, the risk tier, guardrails, tests, logging, this is all part of the pipeline. You don't need to have, and you shouldn't have, a checklist, a separate checklist at the end that runs completely out of the loop. The next stage, you secure the agent layer itself. Least privilege to the tool, identity level, sandbox high-risk tools, monitor agent behavior for anomalies. And this is exactly where, and I mentioned it before, you can use the OWASP Agentic Top 10 to shape the controls that you want to test against. So there's very nice categories like agent goal hijack, tool misuse, identity and privilege abuse, memory poisoning, and security teams can design controls and detections around it. In the end, cross-functional cadence. This is, again, single view for the leadership of where the risks are, what is the value being brought to the table. The security and compliance teams, if they receive input from engineering about new features, they're going to be able to give fast feedback, risk-based feedback, and you move from what usually would go into an endless committee for 6 months, and you probably can get to production in a much shorter time. So this is where I hand back to Joel. I just wanted to highlight that Armis tomorrow will have a demo, online demo, to showcase in a certain way a small part of this playbook so that you can see how it works in real life. Thanks. Joel.
Thank you, Nuno. Well, what Nuno just described is what it looks like when you see the AI governance stop being a PowerPoint and it becomes to be an operating capability. If we zoom out, the pattern we see across organizations is very consistent. The first group says AI is too risky, let's slow everything down. The second group says, okay, governance is too slow, let's move without it. Come on, let's go. And the third group, the ones we see winning, they build trusted acceleration. They move fast, and they can prove what runs where, with which data, and under which conditions. AI is already inside the building. The question is whether you are willing to see it, to shape it, and own it. And that's the core message. Trust is engineered, not assumed. If you engineer for trust, you don't have to choose between innovation and safety. You get both. To close, let's go back to where we started. AI adoption did not wait for permission. Shadow AI is already rewriting how work gets done, with or without formal programs. Regulators are shifting from, do you have a policy, to can we prove control? And the organizations that will thrive in this environment are the ones that treat the AI governance as a design problem and not as an obstacle. This is exactly what we've been doing with our clients. Making AI visible, tier by risk, implementing guardrails, and shipping new AI capabilities with confidence. If you'd like to talk about where you are on that journey, whether it is inventory, telemetry, agent security, aligning stakeholders, Nuno and I will be around after this session. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you so much.